You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
So, little technical difficulties there starting off the show, but all righty. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am going to be riding solo today for you, but that's all right. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to do what we always do when we do some of these things, and we're riding solo. We're going to open this thing up. It's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of answers. Let's talk about your fantasy teams. Let's talk about what we need to do here in order to help you either get by your get by this first round of the playoffs, or make sure that your seeding is set and you get to do what you need to do to either make it into the playoffs or get a better seed in the matchup that you're looking to try and get here with the playoff push here, right? So I know some leagues out there, the home league, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast home league is rocking into the very first round of the playoffs this week. And so a lot of very good matchups going on there. Lots of really cool stuff going on all over the board there, but a lot of folks, they are starting their playoffs next week as well. And so, that means that this week is also very, very important here. So there's lots of things that can happen here from a standpoint of you can play spoiler if you're already out of the deal, right? Like, that can be a lot of fun when you're going up against your buddy that needs to get that final win to get in type of thing, and you get to play spoiler for him, and you get to hold those some of those bragging rights, some of that kind of stuff. Here at the little last tail end of it, same thing too, right? If you're a team that is fighting and struggling to make it in, we got to make sure that you win this week so that you win, you're in. And for those of you sitting very comfortably, in like a 3 spot, maybe your league does a first round bye for the first and second seeds. So one of those, let's make sure we do what you can to see if we can't get you bumped up and win this week so you can potentially try and get a first round bye. So, throw your questions out there, throw that out there. We're going to go through some things. Looks like we already have some questions coming in. This one from Denoogle over on YouTube. Is it worth it to start either Chase Edmonds or James Conner? Yes, it is worth it to start, because there's a lot of folks out there right now that, there's a lot of running backs on bye, right? You look at the Colts on bye, the Patriots on bye, the Dolphins on bye. I know I'm missing another team out there because I know there's 4 of them out there, but you're talking about a lot of different running backs that have all had fantasy value and fantasy relevance this year that are on bye that, you're already talking about them not being available there. So is it worth it to start them? Absolutely. It is worth it to start it. But at the same time too, is it necessarily the best move to start them? It depends on your options out there, right? Like James Conner, the Cardinals have shown when they get inside the red zone and they get inside about the 5-yard line, what do they like to do? Well, they like to run the ball straight up the middle, and James Conner is the guy that's going to get those touches. So you're talking very high value targets and very high value opportunities there for him. So absolutely, if you've got James Conner, I would start him. Looking at my own rankings here, James Conner, I've got him as a top 20 back this week. So he's very easily in a RB2 territory for me. But even if you've got James Conner, most likely you didn't draft him to be your RB2. And he's very worth a flex consideration. So absolutely, if you've got him, start him. Same thing too, right? Like I would probably look at Chase Edmonds more as a flex consideration type of thing than necessarily a must start in an RB2 type of situation, something like that. But just from the standpoint of how that's going to come to work and look and play is it may not necessarily, I would limit my expectations with Chase Edmonds, but definitely still could be worth a flex start out there. Appreciate the question, Denoogle. Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and head on over. We got another question coming in on YouTube from Nannon. With Jonathan Taylor on a bye, they have Darren Williams, or Darrell Williams, my apologies, on my bench. Available players for pickup are Ty Johnson, Devonta Foreman. Who should I play? So again, another interesting one here, right? Like you're talking Jonathan Taylor on bye, who's obviously your RB1 in every situation, right? He's the best running back in the league at this point of the season. So, Darrell Williams is flex playable. I wouldn't necessarily be looking to try and plug and play into that one, but Ty Johnson, they're going up against the they're going up against the Jets are going up against an interesting matchup with the Saints, and the Saints have been good against running backs out there all year long. So I wouldn't necessarily look at trying to rock and roll it that way, just from the standpoint that the Saints have been good on defense all year long. And so I would probably lean towards picking up Devonta Foreman. Deonta Foreman was your question, and play him. Tennessee likes to run the ball. He's going to get the primary touches there. So give me a running back that is very likely to see anywhere from 15 to 20 touches in a game. So yeah, I like that play, and that's where I would go there. Absolutely. Sigimundo chiming in on YouTube, Renfro or Brandon Cooks if he starts today. So if Brandon Cooks starts today, I'm going to play him. Hunter Renfro is going to be a very, very good play though. So don't hear what I'm not saying there. But Hunter Renfro is going to be a great play. Darren Waller is already out on this game. So you're going to see a lot of those targets that Darren Waller saw kind of feed into Hunter Renfro. You also got Foster Monroe who will play over there. And Foster Monroe has been a very good, serviceable tight end there that's worth a stream this week out there as well. But Hunter Renfro, I'm going to see him get some decent targets out there. But at the same time too, right? Like Brandon Cooks, he's going to be the number one option on that. Hunter Renfro, I don't necessarily think that he's going to get the first crack at that thing. I think that you'll see a lot of run try and happen as far as how the Raiders are going to try and game plan against Kansas City, right? I see them kind of looking at what the Broncos did this past week and going, well, that could be a very good recipe for success on how we want to do this thing. See if they can feed Josh Jacobs the ball quite a bit and see what they can do to try and keep the ball out of the Kansas City Chiefs' hands on this one. So I like it. That's probably the way that I would rock and roll that one. Brandon Cooks for the ceiling, Hunter Renfro for the floor on that one. Sigimundo, thanks for the question. Absolutely appreciate you seeing you in the chat there and tuning in. Guys, again, if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, throw them in the chat. Let's go ahead and talk about them. Let's go ahead and rock and roll through them all, right? We are in week 14 of the fantasy football season, which for most folks is the last week of the regular season. So if you've got a win to get in type of thing, let's know. Let's hear about it. Let's see what we can do to help you win and get in. If you're looking for playoff seeding and you got to make a win to try and move up, try and get a first round bye, let's do what we can to get you there. Same thing too. If you've got a win to hang on to your seeding, let's do that too. Let's do what we've got to do to help you guys win some cash and trophies and help you guys get set up for a playoff push here. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that running back wise we've already mentioned that a little bit, that there's a lot of very, very serviceable running backs for fantasy value out there. So some folks scrambling a little bit, right? Like, not even the players that are on bye, but you also saw, Swift is also going to be out. Jamal Williams, who was a big play last week for some folks with DeAndre Swift being out. He is not going to be available for this one. So that leads the question of who to play in this Detroit backfield. And my answer is nobody. I am not looking to necessarily play any Detroit Lions running back unless I absolutely have to. The Denver Broncos have been pretty good against the run this season, and I don't see that changing or that anything like that going on here. So I see them having to not being able to really run the ball very well against this Denver Broncos defense. So I'm not necessarily looking to play any Detroit running back unless I have to. Hawkinson is also looking very doubtful to play on this one. So he'll be a game time decision. But if I've got Hawkinson in my lineup, I'm looking to pivot and make other plans in case he misses. So I'm looking to probably try and have some other folks stashed on my bench in case he's not able to go, so I can swap that out. Just because the last thing you want to do, especially in this week when, there's very big playoff implications on the line, is, take a zero in any spot unless unless you absolutely can't avoid it. So, but if a guy's doubtful and you know that he most likely will not be able to go, which is what we know about Hawkinson at this point, right? It hasn't been confirmed yet that he's going to be out, anything like that. But we also know that he's very, very doubtful to play. So not necessarily looking to go that route. Make other plans, make other preparations, right? Like one of the biggest things that we talked about a couple weeks ago for everybody out there was, what do you do when one of your guys is doubtful? What do you look like? That kind of thing. Well, one of those that you move your roster around, you make the preparations that if a guy's doubtful, things like that, you have a plug and play option there. Same thing too. If they're looking like they're not going to start necessarily at the at the early slate of games, and they're going to start the afternoon games or the Sunday night game or the Monday night game, make sure that you have an option there to pivot to in case you have to, right? Because there's going to be times out there where we think that this is going to be locked and loaded, and at the very end of the moment, like it's just not there, and it's not a reality, and you're going to have to scramble at the last little bit. Whereas you will have more options, and you will have better options if you're making those plans now than necessarily trying to get into the last little bit here and trying to make something happen in the final moments with what is left and guys having already played, things like that. So look at what's on your waiver wire, look at what's available on your bench, and see if it's one of those that do you have options to pivot? Do you have guys that you can move with? Look at your situation and your projections and how that's going to shake out there as well, right? Like one of those that if you're looking to, if you're slated to win, and you can look at the rosters and okay, cool, I got a great matchup this week, things like that. I'm projected to win. I can see myself winning this fantasy matchup with that. And then it becomes okay, cool, I'm going to play a safe floor kind of guy instead of a higher ceiling kind of guy, right? Going back to the Hunter Renfrow, Brandon Cooks thing. Hunter Renfrow absolutely is going to have the better floor between the two of those guys. Brandon Cooks is going to have the better ceiling. So again, Brandon Cooks, he's questionable whether or not he's going to go, things like that. But I didn't necessarily see him on the injury report earlier today. Now he's, that's one of those that should be out there, and that should be known whether or not he's going to be active. Let's just take a look here real quick and see what is listed for him. I don't see him on the final reports here, but one more double check here. Yeah, Brandon Cooks does not look like he's carrying an injury designation. So that being the case, right, like when you're looking at this thing, Brandon Cooks has the better ceiling, Hunter Renfrow the better floor. So if I'm projected to win, I'm going to take the guy with the better floor and ride that one out, right? If I'm playing from behind and I'm going to be potentially missing the playoffs, or I'm going to potentially lose this matchup, then I've got to go for the higher ceiling, and I've got to go with a guy like Brandon Cooks there. Going back to your question, Sigzamundo there. So that's just how I would play the game and how I would look at that, right? You've got to, same thing too, like, if you're in real NFL, right? Like if you're down by 14, you're not going to keep trying to run the ball and burn the clock and slow the game down. You've got to start airing it out, and that's where I'm going with that Renfrow and Cooks type of analogy there. So another question coming in: Evans or Diggs? Man, that is going to be a good one there. So the recipe for the question is how much do you believe the narrative that the Bills have been figured out at this point from a defensive standpoint, right? Like we've seen it a couple of weeks in a row now where to beat the Bills, you take the ball out of the air, you put it on the ground, you take the air out the ball, and you just run and you run and you run and you run. I actually like Leonard Fournette a lot this week in that matchup between the Bills and the Buccaneers. Now, it's one of those two that you've got. The Bills are a little bit banged up in the defensive deal. They've got their cornerbacks. Tre'Davious White is out on that one with the knee issue. So you could see Evans being a potentially decent play this week. But again, I think the Tampa Bay's the Tampa Bay's game plan on offense is going to be run the ball a lot, run the ball heavy, run the ball often, and just really kind of dig that thing out there. Brady's still going to have a good game, but I would also kind of temper the expectations there, right? Most of the time when I'm looking at my own rankings, I'm looking at Brady being up there and as a top 5 quarterback. This week, he did fall down to about QB 8 on the week in my own rankings there, just because of how the narrative I see this one playing out. So Brady's still going to have a good game. He's still going to probably throw for 250 and 3 would be 250 and 2 would probably be my projection on this one. So he'll be relative for fantasy. He'll still have a good day, but the question is then Mike Evans is going to be a little bit more touchdown dependent this week. Whereas Stephon Diggs, the Bills, they don't have a run game. They're going to have to throw the ball out there. The Buccaneers are getting healthier in the secondary, and they're starting to look a little bit like that defense from last year, a little bit more so. But I would lean towards Stephon Diggs in this case, and that's how I have that one ranked as well. But just kind of giving you some of the thought process in the walkthrough that one as well. Stephon Diggs, I've got him as a top 10 wide receiver. Mike Evans, I have him just outside the top 10. Hopefully that answers your question there, AC, over there on YouTube. Alrighty. So quick question coming in from the Twitter. Viking John 2 over there on Twitter is asking, needs a tight end, Monroe or Jared Cook? And that's going to be a good one there, right? Like we already kind of touched on the fact that Darren Waller is out in this game. So it really starts leaning different ways there, right? Like from what we've seen, the Raiders, when they win games, Derek Carr has to throw the ball a lot, right? And so this is one of those, but at the same time too, the last team that you necessarily want to try and get in a shootout with is going to be the Chiefs. Maybe more so this year than in years past, but again, one of those that the Kansas City is going to be favored by 9.5 on this one from the last time I saw a line on this one. And this is one of those that very easily has the feeling that it could touch the over of 48. So I think you're going to get a little bit of a shootout. I think you're going to get some of that to it. Whereas the Chargers are playing the New York Giants. And I've seen different narratives on that one as well, where it could be that the Giants, are out of that thing by halftime, and then the ball gets taken out of the air. Jared Cook's a very much a touchdown dependent tight end. It has been for several years there, but while Keenan Allen is out, I think that does necessarily maybe help Jared Cook on that one, but I'm not necessarily going to lean that way. I would pick up Foster Monroe and I would play him over Jared Cook. That is how I also have my rankings set up there. I think Foster Monroe will have some fantasy relevance and fantasy value outside of just a touchdown dependent type of thing, whereas Jared Cook will be touchdown reliant this week. So, but they are close. They are back to back in my own rankings there. And in the streamable rankings category there. So, could be a very interesting one and see how that one looks and plays. But Foster Monroe would be my answer there. Sigmundo on YouTube is asking Devonta Foreman or DJ Moore at the flex. And actually a follow-up on that one. And Viking John, you are most welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Sigmundo, actually Devonta Foreman, DJ Moore or Brandon Cooks at flex. Basically, I picked up Foreman based on your intel, and I'm going to start Renfro. So Moore, Brandon Cooks, or Foreman as a flyer. Well, Sigmundo, it really depends too on the advice here based on what your lineup is set to do, right? Are you set to win this matchup? Are you projected to win? Are you projected to lose? Are you projected to absolutely mud stomp your opponent, right? Like that's some of the thing that's going to depend on this one. Between those, I think Devonta Foreman has the safest floor. I always prefer playing running backs over wide receivers there a little bit, just from how I tend to put together my roster, things like that as far as flex. But since you're a 10-point dog, then there are some interesting things that take place there. Okay, so let's get down and dirty with this one. So you've got Devonta Foreman, you've got DJ Moore, you've got Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks will be he's going to be boom or bust on this one, right? And so it's one of those that he's either going to uncork and go off, or he is going to probably make you closer to a 15 to 20 point dog on that one, just because he is going to absolutely boom and carry the week, or he's going to bust and he'll put up a dud and give you 3 points type of thing. So let's go through and let's just look at how I've got these guys ranked here. I do have DJ Moore over Brandon Cooks, and it's by a pretty good shot, right? DJ Moore, I've got him as a top 15 back. Brandon Cooks kind of sneaks in as a top 25 back. So that's kind of where that looks there as well, right? DJ Moore is also a boom bust type of play for me. But the difference is that DJ Moore is a one-touch kind of guy, and he can absolutely house one from anywhere on the field. So, yeah, this is one of those that we've seen this before with DJ Moore. He can take a quick slant and turn one up and get to the house. But the problem is that Cam Newton back there throwing the ball, right? The red zone is going to be very limited for what they're doing there as well with DJ Moore, because when you see it, and in the past, when they get into the red zone, there's just as high of likelihood that Cam Newton tucks the ball and puts it in the end zone himself, as far as what DJ Moore is going to do, right? Devonta Foreman is a guy that, again, I fully see him getting probably about somewhere between about 15 and 20 total touches, total opportunities on this one in that game there as well. And so Jacksonville is a plus matchup there for it. So just kind of looking through it, right, when I was breaking down some of these things, I think it's a 50-50 shot whether or not you see DJ Moore get into the end zone. So, but as far as I had him projected out, I've got him for about 5 receptions, 65 yards through the air. Maybe touchdown, maybe not. But depending upon your format, you're talking right around 10 points to right around 15 type of points. So I guess if I start Foreman, should I do Moore over Renfro and Cooks? Moore and Cooks just killing me all year. Kings of boom and bust. You are absolutely right on that one. So that actually, Sigmundo, you probably put up the suggestion there. That would be how I would probably play that. I would probably put Foreman in, and then I would probably go with DJ Moore, who DJ Moore is probably is a more likely candidate to boom than I think either Renfro or Cooks. And you're being a dog on this one. I would probably lean DJ Moore for the upside on that one. But man, oh man, that is a little bit of a tougher one there. So I would start Foreman, and then this is how I'll give you as far as my rankings go with with those guys on your wide receivers. So DJ Moore, I've got him as wide receiver 14. Brandon Cooks, I have him as a wide receiver 21. I have Hunter Renfro as wide receiver 17. So as far as I've got them ranked this week, I've got Moore, Hunter Renfro, Brandon Cooks, kind of in that order there. And hopefully that helps you out there. And so if it's my lineup, I'm going with Foreman. I'm going with Moore, and hoping that one plays out there. But Sigmundo, that was a great exercise, and thanks for submitting that one and rocking and rolling through it. Do me a favor, let me know how that one turns out for you. Hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Good Old Boys FF. You can put the comment here on the YouTube channel, whatever. Like, let me know how that one plays out for you. I know that you've been tuning in all year, and very much appreciate you doing that. And I'm invested in your fantasy team as well. So let me know let me know how that one turns out. I want to know how that one worked out for you. Cool. Will do. Thanks for talking through it. No matter what happens, someone on the bench will go off. That's just the nature of fantasy football, right? There's, very rarely do you ever get your optimized fantasy lineup in there all the time, right? You typically always have that one guy that went off, or that one guy that didn't go off in your lineup. So, from my own experience there, most of the time when I have my pure optimized lineup and I scored I scored the most possible points in my starting lineup there, usually comes in losses, because of the fact that it made it really easy to know who was going off there. And that's part of the fun of fantasy football, is being able to do some of these exercises and going through some of these things and talking it out and all of that. So absolutely appreciate you tuning in, chiming in there. And it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, guys, want to hear some of these stories out there as well. Some of these other thoughts that you guys may, some of these other questions that you may be wrestling with right now, as far as your fantasy roster goes, who to play, who to not play, where you're looking to go, things like that. Absolutely. Let us know, put it in the comments. Let's talk these things through, and absolutely enjoy doing this thing. That's what the good old boys are all about here, trying to do, is get you guys in a position to win the cash and the trophies that make up so much of the fun for playing fantasy football. So love it. Let's go ahead. We got another one coming in here. Danoogle on YouTube. Running back options. Spoils of the riches here. Man, you're not kidding. That's a stacked lineup. So you did a very, very good job working your waiver wire and drafting on that one, because James Conner was probably drafted. Cordell Patterson was probably a waiver wire pickup, and Leonard Fournette was probably a late pick there as well. So you did an absolutely great job of picking out your spots there and looking at it and going through that. So as far as how I would rank these guys, Antonio Gibson is my first ranked running back that I have, but on your list here. Actually, I'm sorry. I take that back. I have Leonard Fournette, Antonio Gibson, and then Cordero Patterson, and then James Conner as far as this one goes. So that's how I would rank them in 1, 2, 3, 4 type of options there. I think I'm playing with the narrative that the Buccaneers are going to come out. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And they're going to use the game plan that we've seen work the last couple of weeks that I think teams around the league are going to play copycat and say, okay, we're going to do this until it doesn't work anymore. So that's how I see that one playing out. James Conner is going to be more touchdown dependent this type of week. But again, I think that he is going to probably see the end zone, and I think he's going to get a decent enough workload. Cordero Patterson, really kind of the only offensive weapon that they really seem to have and can be able to get fantasy production out of down there in Atlanta. So I think he's going to have a good game. And Antonio Gibson playing Dallas this week. J.D. McKissick is out again. So I think we're going to see another big workload for the Antonio Gibson. And that one could be a lot of fun there. So I absolutely love it. Love the question, and great job putting together that roster. Nice job. Ide of Phoenix on YouTube. Barkley has been a bit of a disappointment lately. Would Gronk be a better choice in standard? Ooh, that is a tough one as far as a standard league goes, right? So standard league, you're really banking on who gets a touchdown on this one, right? Like you'll get yardage, you'll get that kind of stuff, but for the most part, right, like the way that scores, a touchdown is worth 60 yards as far as running and pass catching and standard type of formats there. So, when you break it down from that angle and that aspect, say that Gronk gets 40 yards and a touchdown, right? That's 10 points in standard leagues. And can Gronk do that? Absolutely. He can do that. He's a big check down deal, and they do a good job of getting him the ball in his hands, right? Whereas Saquon Barkley, if he gets held out of the end zone, and they've got a bit of a tougher matchup there. The Chargers have looked all right on as far as defense goes. So, the question is do you see Saquon Barkley getting in the end zone? I don't necessarily think that I see him getting in the end zone this week. If they do, it's going to come off of a passing option, which, so the question then becomes is if Saquon doesn't get in the end zone, do you see him tallying up about 100 total yards worth of yardage? Because at that point, I see that being about a break-even point, right? But, would it surprise me that you see Saquon get 50 yards through the on the ground and 40 yards through the air and held out of the end zone as far as the stat line goes at the end of this? Wouldn't surprise me at all. Would it surprise you if you looked at the stat line at the end of this thing and go, okay, Gronk got into the end zone and put up 30 yards receiving, which that one feels probably more likely to happen to me than that one. But that being the case, I've got to give you the opinion of, you've got to go with the guy that's going to get the bigger workload, because the bigger workload equals more opportunities equal more chance for yards and touchdown. So I'm going to take the guy that has the more touches and the bigger opportunity of getting it. So as much as I would like to go with the Gronk there, I think you still got to ride Saquon Barkley in this one, even though I think he's got a tough matchup here. Same thing too with the Buccaneers. They've got a bit of a tough matchup there as well. But Ida Phoenix, absolutely appreciate the question and you chiming in there. Hopefully that helps you out there. Guys, again, if you have any other questions, anything like that, let us know. Hit it up, put it in the comments, put it in the questions, and would absolutely love chatting with you guys and walking through anything that you want to talk to, right? Like, this is another one of those that just kind of, last week we looked at a lot of games that had some interesting lines out there, some things that, and part of the reason I bring up lines and how Vegas kind of sees some of these things and things like that is the fact that, it's a good starting point when trying to have some of these conversations, have some of this narrative and putting that together, right? Because of the fact of, who do you see ultimately winning this thing? Who do you see ultimately losing this thing? How do you see this one playing out here, right? Like, The Denver Detroit game is a very interesting line. The Broncos are favored by 11.5, which is an absolute monstrous line on this one, with an over under of 42. So, when you start thinking about that from it at that perspective, you're talking about the fact that they really think that the Broncos are going to beat the Lions by about 12, and there's only going to be 42 or less points scored in this game, which very well could happen, right? You've got Hawkinson, who's doubtful. You've got DeAndre Swift that is out. You've got Jamal Williams that's out. So, how do the Lions try and move the ball down the field and score? The Denver defense has been pretty good here as of late, and so that's one of those that's a matchup that I'm not necessarily looking to play any Detroit type of players. But the Broncos, put Javonte Williams in there, put Melvin Gordon in there. I think both of them will have a pretty decent game out there as well, right? Like, let's go ahead and take a look at another one of these things. Kansas City and the Las Vegas Raiders, right? The Kansas City favored by 9.5 with an over under of 48. This is one of those that when I look at this one, these two teams have a tendency to get in a bit of a shootout every time that they play each other, and they tend to put up a lot of points when they play each other here, right? So I would probably look for this to be about a touchdown type of game, and I would look for more points than the 48 to be scored there, right? So how does that come to play, right? So Kansas City, you're going to start all your usual suspects. You're going to start, Tyreek. You're going to start Travis Kelce. I think CEH has a pretty good game in this one and has a pretty good run here. Also, right, like with the Vegas Raiders, I think that they're going to try and maybe take some of that game plan the Broncos used last week against the Chiefs. So I'm going to play Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to have a pretty decent game. Take your pick as far as, the Vegas receiving core. Hunter Renfrow, Foster Moreau, really the only guys that I'm looking to try and play there. But would it surprise me that if this is the week that you see Deshaun Jackson put up a big, long score? No, it wouldn't. But am I playing it to the point where I'm putting him in any lineup? No, I'm not going to. Another interesting one out there as well is the Saints, the Jets. The Saints have been struggling mightily, but you get Alvin Kamara finally back this week. So that one could be very, very interesting here. The Jets have been absolutely horrendous against the run. The Saints have not looked good passing the ball here. So this is going to be a strength on weakness type of thing when it's all said and done here, right? The Jets also haven't looked great throwing the ball a lot late. Well, the Jets have been the Jets, but the New Orleans Saints have been very, very good against the run. So you're going to see the Jets kind of be a one-dimensional type of offense here. Elijah Moore is out. Corey Davis is out. So, who does Zach Wilson throw the ball to? That's going to be an interesting one there. And a fun one could be really leaning and looking at a guy like Jamison Crowder, who tends to be a little bit of a safety blanket there. So, he could be worth a dart throw if you absolutely need something. But again, not necessarily looking super happy at trying to start to play him. But Alvin Kamara, the Saints, that's about all I'm looking to play there. Taysom Hill is going to be worth a start there as well. I don't see them necessarily trying to throw the ball much, but Taysom Hill will get his fantasy points on the ground like he tends to do. Again, another interesting matchup there that we haven't really talked about much. The Sunday night game tonight with the Bears and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers rolling lately and have been playing fairly well, right? Like an 11-point game, 43 is the over under on this one. So, the question becomes is, can the Bears put up enough points to even keep this thing close? I don't know that they can. So this is one of those that I think you're going to see Green Bay kind of run away and hide with this one a little bit, to the point where you may see some A.J. Dillon work in the third, fourth quarter as Green Bay kind of takes the air out the ball a little bit, plays with the lead, that kind of stuff. So, again, that's one of those that would be an interesting matchup there to keep an eye out and look at there as well. Seattle Houston's another interesting one there as well, right? And this is part of the reason that I see Brandon Cooks being such a big boomer bust type of candidate here, is the fact that Seattle's offense, or Seattle's defense, and especially pass defense, has not been very good. They've been allowing a lot of big plays to go through there. So Brandon Cooks is in play for me on this one, but this is one of those that Seattle is going to have to throw the ball, right? Like we've is it who's going to be the Seattle running back that's going to ultimately out touch? And I think it's going to be a pretty close split 50-50 type of thing when you're talking between Alex Collins, when you're talking between Rashad Penny, and so this could be one of those that I'm looking to stay away from the running back options over there in Seattle. But could this be the bounce back week we've been looking for both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf? That is something that I would probably look at and probably bank more so on is both of those guys having very good games and very fantasy relevant games there as well. So guys, we're going to go ahead and start kind of winding down here. If you have any final questions for your fantasy rosters, any final questions for this week, any comments for this week, let's go ahead and throw those out there. And BK7 over there on YouTube throwing out there DK or T Higgins. Man, that is going to be a good one there. And I guess that really kind of depends too on how you see the narratives playing out there. So I'll just kind of walk you through how I see the narratives playing out on this game, and then that'll ultimately kind of help bring that thing around there as well, right? So San Francisco and the Bengals playing each other. Jamar Chase has not been the Jamar Chase that we saw earlier this season, right? He has been he has not been connecting on those deep shot targets, which is what was just racking him up fantasy points on long targets. He has been a little bit difficult to project there. However, T Higgins has been hitting on those bigger those bigger connections and those bigger plays to it. So he's very much in play, and I think that he's going to have a good week there. But between the two, right, let's go ahead and head over here to the fantasy rankings that I've got up here. And let me just pull these guys up here for you. So DK Metcalf, I've got as the wide receiver 10 on the week, and T Higgins, I have him as the wide receiver 13 on the week there. So again, I see this one playing out to the point where you're going to see probably 7 for 80 and a touchdown for DK Metcalf. And I think you're probably going to see closer to maybe 6 and 60 and maybe a touchdown for T Higgins there on that one. So if it's my lineup, BK, I'm going to be taking DK over T Higgins on that one. But let me know how that one turns out. Appreciate the question. Appreciate you tuning in there. Guys, again, any final questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, throw them out here. I'm going to start winding down the show and we'll start signing out here. But do us a favor, head over to the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell. We do the show live 3 times a week. Do apologize. We had to miss the Friday show this last week, but we will be back into our normal schedule here starting this coming week. So Tuesday, 11 p.m. Eastern, you're going to be able to find us on Twitter, Facebook, and the YouTube channel. So make sure you head over to YouTube, Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell, get those notifications when we go live. We'll be back for the Friday show this coming week as well. When you're talking 11 p.m. Eastern, we'll be talking all of the matchups going through it that way. And then the Sunday show where we can answer any start sit questions, things like that. We bring those to you 11:45 a.m. Eastern on Sundays, and we'll be back next Sunday here as well. Another question, Ian on YouTube, Marquise Brown or Julio Jones this week. Man, I just don't know that I can trust Julio with that hamstring, right? Like we've seen, and I know that he just went on IR. I know that he took some time to really try and heal that up, and they're expecting him to come back this week. But I just don't know. This is a hamstring that has plagued him for the better part of 2 seasons here. And when you're looking at it, Tennessee, Jacksonville, the question that I'll ask you is, do you see Tennessee having to throw the ball in this game to really win it and to really stay in this one? Or do you see them taking the air out the ball against a bad Jacksonville defense here and just pounding the ball with Hilliard, with Devonta Foreman? That's how I see this narrative playing out. The Tennessee's Titans offense is very much centered in their run game. And so that's how I'm going to see that one playing out. Will Julio get some targets? Yes. Will he get a couple of shots down the field? Yes. Do I expect him to have a big game? No. Do I expect him to probably go over 50 yards receiving? No, I don't think so. Whereas with the Baltimore and Cleveland, right? Do I trust the guy that has been a better option for my fantasy team all year long? Yeah, Yeah, I do. Now, do I think we need to very much temper expectations with Marquise Hollywood Brown? Absolutely, I think we do. But I've got Marquise Hollywood Brown as my 16th wide receiver, and Julio Jones is not in that top 16, to answer your question that way. In that case, Hubbard or Hilliard, man, that again is going to be a tough one, because you're talking about, while Hubbard will get the first work as far as a running back goes in Carolina, the question is when they get in the red zone, is it going to be Chuba Hubbard? Is it going to be Cam Newton? I lean towards Cam Newton there. Same thing too when you're talking over there in Tennessee. Is it going to be Hilliard? Is it going to be Devonta Foreman? It's going to be Devonta Foreman on that one. Will Hilliard get some run? But just look at how the last game that they played out went, right? It was 19 touches to 12 touches for Foreman there. And so that's the way that I'll answer your question, is ultimately, who do you see having more workload? Who do you see getting more opportunities? That's the guy I'm going to go with, is the guy that gets more opportunities on this game, which should be Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, I have him as my 22nd running back, and Hilliard is down there closer to 30. I've got him at my running back 28. So in that case, I would go with Hubbard, and I would lean that way myself. It's my own roster there, Ian. But great question. I do like it. Do appreciate you chiming in there. Guys, again, any other questions? I got time for one or two more here. So let's, while you guys are out there, you can also interact with us on the different social platforms out there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find it at Good Old Boys FF. You can find the Good Old Boys rankings for that, right? I've mentioned that a couple of different times on the show. You can find our rankings at goodoldboysff.com in our weekly rankings section. So you can see a lot of those types of things. If you guys happen to have some questions on how we might lean or which way we would go based on our rankings there as well. So, both great options to hit us up and check that out. And then you can certainly hit us up on the socials there as well to ask any of those last minute questions. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. So Russ Wilson or pick up Taysom Hill, man, again, that is a tough one there. And we're just going to head back over here to the quarterback rankings. And so looking at it, man, oh man, oh man, I have got Russell Wilson as my, actually glad you brought this one up here, but Taysom Hill, I think I've got to lean Taysom Hill over, or I'm sorry, I think I've got to lean Russell Wilson over Taysom Hill this week, just from the standpoint that you're going to see Alvin Kamara back. So I don't think you're going to see all of the upside that you just saw with Taysom Hill this last week there as well, right? Like, let's not kid ourselves. Taysom Hill's, all of his fantasy production and his great fantasy production last game out came because he ran for over 100 yards, had very little to do with his passing work there. So Taysom Hill threw 4 interceptions last game and was bad for overall NFL football, and would have been bad for fantasy football if his rushing upside didn't save him there. So I think he's got a capped rushing upside on this one. And so I'm going to lean towards Russell Wilson, who I think Seattle is going to have to throw the ball to win this game. I think they're going to have to really play this thing out there to the point where you're going to have to see these guys. You're just going to have to see Seattle put that up. So I see Russell Wilson with probably 250, 260 at least through the air, and probably 2 to 3 touchdowns. Taysom Hill, I've got him probably closer to 200 yards, 50 yards on the ground, and maybe a touchdown. Maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns there. So I'm going to take, again, the volume that I think you're going to get out of Russell Wilson. But that's a great question and a tough one there as well. So question coming in on Twitter here, PJ of Tex, Hunt or Dylan. Man, that is a tough one, because I had never really liked playing guys that are playing off of injury and coming back off of IR there. And so I think that, does Kareem Hunt get some good play? Yeah, I think he'll get some decent workload. I think he'll do well for your fantasy roster there. But that Green Bay Chicago game, is it going to surprise me when we look up in the third quarter and Green Bay's up by 10 or 2 touchdowns? No, no, it's not going to surprise me at all, right? You've seen Aaron Jones be a little bit banged up recently. And so is this one of those chances that you can, turn the ball over to a bruiser like A.J. Dillon and let him run between the tackles and take the air out the ball, run some clock, things like that? I think that's how that narrative is probably going to play out, more so than what you're going to see in the Cleveland and Baltimore game, which I think is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game there as well. Whereas this Green Bay team, I think, is going to put up probably more points by themselves. And I think you're going to see the cumulative score of Cleveland and Baltimore, right? Like if I check the box score later today and go, oh, wow, Cleveland and Baltimore, they had a game that ended in 14-10, 17-14 type of fashion. Not going to surprise me. Am I going to look? Is it going to surprise me if I look up and go, the Packers hung 31, 35 points on the Bears? Nope, not going to surprise me either. So I'm going to take the guy that I think is going to have more chances at points. And I think that A.J. Dillon probably has more chances at points this week than Kareem Hunt. But thanks for the question. Appreciate you throwing that out there, PJ. Guys, I do believe that that's going to take us down to the end of this, and that's going to wrap it up. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. Love doing these shows with you guys every single week. You guys make this a lot of fun, and hopefully that we're doing everything we can to help you guys win those cash and trophies for your fantasy rosters. Good luck for this week, right? Whether you're starting the playoffs, I know there's some league formats out there that started the playoffs this week, and some of y'all, this is the last week of the regular seasons before you get into your playoffs. So go out there, do what you got to do to win, to make sure that you get into the playoffs, make sure that you get the seeding that you're looking to get, all of those good things. So best of luck to everybody out there. Hopefully it bounces your way. Let me know how any of these picks and these suggestions turned out for you. Very much appreciate the feedback and letting and hearing from y'all on whether or not we helped you win, or if we need a little bit of a re-examination of how we're going through our process there. So absolutely appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, reaching out, and commenting. Before we go, do us a favor, go over to YouTube, hop on the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell. That way you get notifications every time we go live or we launch the videos here. So just a couple of programming things here as well. We'll be live again Tuesday, Friday, Sunday this coming week, and then as you guys start looking at how do I stay up to some stuff over the off season, things like that, whether you're doing dynasty or whether you just like starting your process earlier than a lot of folks do, the Good Old Boys go through a team by team breakdown of every single team out there over the offseason there. We do a very deep dive analysis on where we kind of look for players to be, things like that. And we would love to see you guys through that process there as well. And, get a leg up already starting for next season there as well. But guys, let's do what we got to do. Let's go win us some cash and trophies, and best of luck to everybody. Let's go get some W's. Have a good one and be safe. For the Good Old Boys, I'm Derek.